Welcome. Nice to be with you. A reminder to everyone. Next week, September 2nd through 4th, we'll be having an online retreat. And so the path can be very hard, difficult, confusing, messy. It's very hard to walk the path alone. When you show up to these types of meetings, and especially when you do retreats, when you participate in a retreat, the thing I hear most from participants at the end of the retreat, people normally say something like, something shifted. Something shifted. The place where I was stuck has shifted. And now I don't feel so stuck. Normally people are smiling and they're happy, or they say, wow, that was really hard. In some ways they're just really lovely, in other ways, but there was a shift within my consciousness. And this is what I want to speak about today in regards to Kundalini, is when the Kundalini is raging in our nervous system, when the awakening is difficult, confusing, messy, bizarre, when it brings up old trauma or fear, it's like an ancient wall of resistance. Perhaps sometimes it's even a resistance that we don't even understand. When you step into the retreat container and you keep showing up throughout the retreat, whatever it was that you were tripping over, it tends to intensify. And everyone's like, oh my God. And then it tends to break. It tends to intensify as the light shines on it. And then it tends to break. To break. And as human beings, we're so short-sighted. It's just like wired into our egoic nature, is we will give up. We will postpone long-term happiness, joy, freedom, love. We'll postpone that. And in its place, we'll say, I want short-term happiness in the form of avoidance. And that's not real happiness. That's just a life of distraction. So as spiritually awakening beings, we have to be warriors on the path. And the hilarious thing about being a warrior is, as you step onto the path and commit to being a warrior, at the end of the path, what you're left with is not like the life of being a warrior, which is tragic and a lot of armor, a lot of heaviness, a lot of denseness, a lot of rigidity, harshness, all those things. What we're left with is unconditional love. Unconditional love. It's this very paradoxical thing. It's through the willingness to face pain or heartache, difficulty, willingness to face our wound or our shadow, the willingness to just continue to show up in the octagon with God. And when God is throwing you into all kinds of bizarre, altered states of consciousness, whether it's long-term fatigue or depression or long-term anxiety or fear or terror. Sometimes it's blissful states too, by the way. Sometimes people get freaked out about blissful states. It always blows my mind. They say, I'm unworthy of this. It's too much. I can't handle it. But it's the willingness to keep showing up with an open heart. And eventually this path breaks us open. Now, right up to right about 3/4 of the way on the path, oftentimes we just think God is breaking us down, breaking us down, breaking us down. But eventually we get over the hump. We're just broken open. And we can truly smile. We can truly surrender. We can truly trust. I'm having like this funny experience with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And occasionally, like if I can get out of work early enough, I can take my daughter and I can show up and be like a helper in one of her classes. So I'm like working with kids who are between like between 5 and 10 years old, and teaching them jujitsu along with the professor's teaching. I'm just helping out. And, like last night I was there, and, the teacher, he started yelling at me because I wasn't doing it right. I wasn't following the instructions. All these little eyes were just like staring at me, the big, doofus in the room. And the professor, said to one of the little girls, like, "Hey, Maddie, come over here and take Craig's blue belt off of him. Like, take it off of him because he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve it." And so, so I was being humbled, being humiliated. But deep in my heart, I'm smiling. I see what the teacher is doing to me. I'm seeing he's seen what kind of man I am if I'm dedicated, if I'm humble, if I'm willing to be open, if I'm willing to show up again and again and again. And the grace of Kundalini, I want you to hear that word, the grace of Kundalini. Most of us don't think of it as grace. We think of it as like the name of my first video on Kundalini that I published, terrible video, but like the nightmare of Kundalini, like the terror, the nightmare of Kundalini. That's how most of us think of it. And so with this path, we have to be incredibly careful that we don't fall under the illusion of thought or feeling. Now, feeling is the real one that comes up with Kundalini. Like most of us know our thoughts aren't real. We know our thoughts will pass. With Kundalini, it's because it's such a felt experience. If we're not feeling Kundalini, like there's normally no Kundalini there. It's very clear when it's here. And often it's cooking us, it's burning us, it's purifying us. I don't like the word purification, but in a sense, like that's what it's doing. It's burning up egoic resistance. It's burning up our personal will. It's burning up the one inside who thinks they are the doer, the creator, the manifester, the whatever it is. It's burning that up. And it's showing you that what you are is divine, is holy, is the creator, and not the creator from ego and fear and that type of thing, but the creator from a place of truth. Like ultimately, Kundalini teaches us unconditional love and unconditional trust. Through unconditional knowingness. Unconditional knowingness means there's no longer doubt about who and what you are. Even though my teacher was humiliating me last night in front of all these children, there's an unconditional knowingness within me that I'm a warrior, that this is my path, that there's one way forward. It's an unconditional knowingness. I know who and what I am. And so, he can pour it on thick. It's funny, uh, this current teacher I'm studying with, he's very old school. Like it's almost child abuse. Like what the way he teaches, how hard he is, like on the kids and everything, but they absolutely love him. They absolutely love him. And he's busy calling them brats and all kinds of names, and he's yelling, who's going to be the brat of the month? And if any of you have seen Despicable Me, like the main character Gru, they both have similar accents because the teacher's from Brazil, and his English is terrible. He's not politically correct in any way. And he's very, very hard, but also ridiculously loving. And the way his love manifests is through giving his attention to the things in the room that are difficult. He gives it his full laser-like attention. And see, Kundalini does the same thing with us. It loves us through a laser-like attention and pressure on the places within us that are confused, that are lost, that are stuck in some state of consciousness, which is not our highest truth. Now, from a place of like egoic mentality, we'll say, oh, this isn't fair. I don't like this. This is uncomfortable. Look what this energy has done to my life. God, why are you continuing to make me bedridden and this and that, and making it so I can't work, so I can't think, so I have all these kriyas and this anxiety or this intensity. God, what are you doing to me? Why are you hurting me, God? Says the voice of the ego. And Kundalini is busy telling us, because I believe in you. And you're not living from a place of truth. And so I'm forcing you to be you, the true you. I'm not letting you get away with being the unconscious you. And in a deep way, like if any of us are truly honest and we actually know ourselves, if we know our soul, we begin to see, oh yeah, my soul wants to be awake. My soul wants to be God here on planet Earth. This is what my God was. This is what my soul wants. This is what my soul wants. So what our soul wants and what God wants is the same thing. When we begin to wake up to this truth, then we realize, oh, I am the Kundalini. I am God. I am the truth. But there's not two here, but there's one here. Now, before we've waken up to this basic truth, that what you are is love and what you want to be is love. You love manifest. We're busy resting in a different truth, which is I'm separated, I'm isolated, I'm alone. It's me against the world. It's me against others. These people hurt me and it caused me suffering. And it's not fair and it's not right. And from an egoic perspective, that's absolutely true. The world hurts us, beats us up, and it harms us in all these ways. If we get stuck in that perspective, we're in this eternal fight with life. There's this funny dance that happens through being a warrior and the willingness to love your own self in every aspect of your being, every layer of your being. When you're willing to love the rejected and the wounded, the hurting, the abandoned, the orphaned aspects of your own consciousness. When you're willing to plunge into the very unconscious nature of your body, the world most people don't go, but the unconscious realm, nature of the body, and meet this with love, and the body begins to wake up. It's this great gift. So first, of course, we bring consciousness to our mind and kind of get that all cleaned up, and to our emotional nature. And it's this willingness to love the places that we fear. Love the places where we feel defeated. We're willing to love the places we've rejected. And we can take it a step further. It's the willingness to love the places that we didn't even know existed within us. The places that we don't even know exist within us. So the path of Kundalini is the path of the Bodhisattva. The problem with the Bodhisattva path is that most people who want to be a Bodhisattva, they're busy, like they want to go out and save the world before they've saved themselves. And that's not loving. It's not loving to put your own humanity at the end of the list. What's loving is when you care for yourself first, when you do your work, when you embrace it all within you, and when you embody your truth. This last week during satsang, the first question was about this embodying one's truth. Like, it's the most loving thing you can do for yourself is, yes, doing your trauma work, but in a real positive side, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is for you to find your gift, find your truth, believe in yourself, and to live your truth, to be what you're meant to be. The spiritual people have this disease of making themselves last and wrong and saying that everything human is ego. I mean, there's so much in our humanity that is so good, so divine, and it wants to come forward. And if you don't believe in that, if you don't love your own self, like, who's going to do that? The ego is always looking for the perfect partner to love us in a way so that we can come forward and shine. We're looking for our parents, to wake up and do that. It's like all of us are too old to be looking to our parents. Like, our parents, they didn't do it. they did their best, but they did something. They did something. But can you believe in you? Can you have absolute faith in you? Because God absolutely does. And that's why she's trying to manifest so fully and so experientially throughout your body, through all 7 chakra centers. That's what all this dance is about. Is God looking at you and saying, you are love. And we look at God and say, no, I'm a victim and I've been abused and it's not right and I'm unworthy and I'm bad and the other people are bad. And God say, no, you are love. Breathe me in, open to me. Let me show you how to love more fully. We show you how to surrender so you can live the truth that you are. And so for most of us, like this surrender, it's not just sitting on the meditation cushion and being like, okay, God, I surrender. For most of us, it's quite an intense and wild ride, where there's aspects of our being that are holding on for dear life, fighting in all these different ways. And God's saying, okay, if you're going to turn up the heat, you're going to turn up the resistance, then I got to turn up the heat. Sometimes I get scared when I have to wrestle with the professor at the place I study, because he's like a 5th or 6th degree black belt. And I try to defend myself. And he says, okay, like if you're going to turn up the heat, Craig, I'm going to turn it up higher. And finally I say, okay, like how about I surrender? I take the easy path. He says, Craig, like just old man jujitsu, light and gentle, old man style, light and gentle. And let me show you a thing or two. He says, if you fight with me, then he's like, oh, then I can do it a different way. And the different way hurts. And unfortunately, for most of us on this path, myself included, we choose to fight. And the majority of the time, like that Kundalini was giving me a hard time, I was fighting with it in ways that I was completely unconscious of. I didn't even understand how I was fighting. And it took a long time to realize, oh yeah, I'm clenching here and I'm tense there. I have this thought, I have this belief system. I have this idea of how I think God should be or how the past should be. I'm holding here. Geez, I didn't even know this was an aspect of my consciousness that was holding. I didn't even know that was connected to me. And the Kundalini says, I'm going to show you all kinds of things. Realms of immense bliss and freedom and realms of immense unconsciousness. And I need you to be awake in all of them.